Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Over the past few weeks, we've been looking at my top 5 pens in a number of price ranges. Those that are under $20, 20 to 50 Australian dollars, 50 to 100 Australian dollars, 100 to 200 Australian dollars, and over 200 Australian dollars. So now we've got the 5 winners from those. It's time for the grand final. And the winner of the grand final will take home this super expensive trophy that I got at great personal expense. Join me now down on the mat and let's take a look at these pens and then announce the winner. So here we are down on the mat. Let's jump in and we'll look at the first pen, which was the winner in the under $20 price range. And this is the Delike New Moon 2. I love the colours of this pen. It looks quite unusual, doesn't it? You've got black, but then you've got here, you can see the chatoyancy on this. I'm going to call it, it's not a pink, but maybe a very pale light crimson. Just going to slowly turn this around just so you can see it all. I think this looks so unusual, and certainly it's a conversation starter. I remember, and I'm going back about a year here, we had an internet technician come out to look at our internet box. Now, because we'd been having problems with it, I had a notepad and this pen at the side of the box, just so I could note things down when they happened. And he commented about how unusual it looked. So, yeah, definitely conversation starter type colour. But just take the cap off. So there's 1 turn, there's 2 turns, 3 turns, about 3 1/4 turns. So it does take quite a few turns to come off. And then before we go in and look at the nib, I'm just going to, it's a cartridge converter pen and it's all metal fittings. Pop that back together. Let's take a closer look at the nib. There we go. So this is a fairly small nib. This is one of the things I do find, especially with the cheaper pens, most of the nibs are fairly small. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What matters is, does it write and how well it writes? And this does write quite nicely. Let's pop the pen into my hand. So unposted, look at that. It's a little bit on the short side for me. It's one of the things that lets this pen down. But it doesn't really matter because I can post it. It posts quite nicely. And when it's posted, I find it's a really nice, comfortable fit. So I quite enjoy using this pen. Let's do some writing, shall we? So we have here the Delike New Moon 2. It's got a fine nib. And it cost me 18 Australian dollars. The ink is by Diamine and it's Syrah. Really nice. I would say this is tending towards a crimson type colour. I'm going to move the mic so you can hear it right. So, as I was writing, I hope you can see we've got quite a bit of shading coming through. Now, one of the things I do find with that is as it dries, the amount of shading seems to reduce. But certainly when I'm writing, I think it looks really nice. It's got a lot of character to it. Let's go and look at my Gale and Leather Tomoe River notepad. This is 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. I'm calling out here. It's a nice, comfortable pen to use posted. I've just shown you that. The nib, I hope it came over in the writing sample. The nib is extremely smooth. It's really nice. Yes, there's some little bits of feedback in there. I do like a small amount of feedback, but it's not feeling like I'm dragging it over the paper. It's not digging into the paper. It's just like it's gliding over the top. Very similar to a fairly sharp pencil. That's one of the things it reminds me of. I've called out again. I can see some colour variation. It doesn't jump out at me. We'll take another quick look at the optic paper in a minute, but it's still nice. I've had no issues with this pen with any hard starting or skips. Doesn't matter what paper I use on, it's really nice. I am saying on here that the ink's a bit too light. I'm not sure on that. I was just trying to be as critical as I can. I think certainly with the amount of black in there, I would like a slightly darker ink. But again, it's a very personal choice. So the 3 lines at the bottom of the page. The first one, where I've got the hash mark, this is where I'm looking at the wetness. So I do the hash, then I do a hash and immediately swipe it. I then do a scribble, again do a scribble and swipe it, just to get an idea of how wet the pen is. The lines underneath that, the first 3 lines, that's with no pressure. The second 3 lines, that's where I'm putting a bit of pressure on the nib, so I'm trying to get an idea for line variation. And then the S's, so you can see with this one, we have got a little bit of line variation. And right at the very bottom where there's that scribble, that's one continuous scribble going all the way across the page. And I do that to see, does the nib and the ink flow keep up with each other? And we can tell again, here it does. But all in all, for a pen that's under 20 Australian dollars, I quite like this. As I've called out and said, you know, there's definitely shade in there. And we can see there the colour against the pen now with that ink. And hopefully this comes over that I think the ink, yeah, it's just maybe not the right colour. But this is the Delike New Moon 2. The winner of the 20 to 50 Australian category, well, that was the Dian 960. This is in a gorgeous black colour. I really do like this black colour, but I also like that it's got the gold accent to it, so it really brings out that colours. Just going to turn this around, you know, it's fairly plain, just black. Let's take the cap off. So that's half, one, about 1.5 turns. Definitely a lot better than what we were seeing with that New Moon 2. This one again, cartridge converter with all metal fittings. Let's take a look at the nib on this one. So we've got a larger nib this time. This is a number 6 size nib. The nib on here is really nice. I've not had to do any work on this. A lot of my, I'm going to call them cheaper pens, but less expensive pens maybe is the better word. I need to do a little bit of micro meshing on them, but not this. This wrote really well out of the box and has continued to do so. Really enjoy this pen. It's a nicer fit in my hand. That little bit tiny extra length makes all the difference. It will post. I find posted, it feels very back heavy though. So I always use this one unposted. Let's go and do a little bit of writing. So here we have a Dian 960. Again, it's got a fine nib. This time we're looking at 35 Australian dollars. The ink is by Pure Pens. And it's Celtic C. I like this. It's a nice blue ink and it's got some lovely shading to it. I'm just going to move the mic so that you can hear the pen write. I'm being very picky here. I had a tiny issue on the downline of the I in Wizards. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm pointing everything out that I'm seeing. And I am being very, very picky. Because other than that, I've had no issues with writing. Look at this ink. We've got some gorgeous shading coming through. I really enjoy this ink. Now this ink I've had in a medium nib for my Leonardo Momento Zero Grande, and I've seen no shading from that. But in this fine nib, in this Dian 960, I see loads. Again, I like that idea that we're getting the shading because to me, it helps to fetch character to the writing. Let's go and look at the Tomoe River paper. So again here, I'm calling out, yes, it still feels slightly short, but it's usable unposted, and my preference is unposted. I've never had to do anything to it. I don't feel like I've had to do anything to it. This one, I would say it's not as smooth as that Delike. There's a little bit more roughness to it when I'm writing. Again, it's not dragging, but I can certainly feel it. And I do like the tactile nature of writing. So to me, I've got a couple of pens where it's just like writing on glass, a bit like using an Apple Pencil on an iPad screen. I don't like that. I like this though. This seems to have, again, it's got that feel to it, so you can feel as you're writing. I've had a number of different inks in this pen, had no issues with any of them. And one of the beauties of it being a black pen, I can use any colour I want. I see a lot of character, so again, we've pointed that out with the shading coming through. If I had to pick a fault, again, I'm saying here, I'd like to have this in a broad nib. That's a very personal choice because I personally have been moving towards more of liking to use broad nibs. Now, I have recently bought a number of replacement nibs, so I may try swapping the nib out, but one part of me thinks, well, you enjoy writing with it, so why mess with it? So that's something that I'm going to have to look at over the next few weeks. If we look at the bottom, I got slightly muddled here. The first line, we've got our line variation. As you can see from this, there's an awful lot of line variation available from this nib. I like that. Not that I often use a lot of pressure in my writing. It's always nice to have an option though. Wetness, well, I would say it's slightly wetter than we were seeing with that Delike pen, but not overly so. And then at the very bottom, our scribble, no problem with the flow. So all in all, really enjoyable pen. And this is the Dian 960 with Pure Pens Celtic C. Just going to move the paper up slightly, ready for the next pen. So the third pen, this is in the $50 to $100 price range. This was won by the Narwhal Schuylkill. I've got a couple of Schuylkills. I absolutely love them. I think they're unusual. I mean, this is chromist teal. And just look at all these different colours we've got. We've got like a greeny minty blue. We've got browns. We've got some greys in there. We've got this silver for the trim. Really nice. Unusual is one of the things I like to think about this. This is a piston filler. It's the only piston filler that we're going to be having in today's list. One of the things I do like with this, I've just loosened the cap slightly. We've got this ink window here. So this means I can get an idea of how much ink is in there. Again, I'm being extremely picky. I'd have liked to have seen that window bigger, maybe double the size, because certainly, like now where we're getting low on ink, it's actually not as easy to see how much ink is in there as what I would like. But again, I'm being extremely picky. I've just tightened the cap. Let's take it off now. So we've got half, 1, 1.5, 2. Just under 2 turns. And here we have a Narwhal nib. Again, this is a number 6 size nib. On my other Schuylkill, I've actually swapped the nib a couple of times, so it's really easy. It's just friction fit, the nib pulls out, dead simple to slot in another one. If we take a look in my hand, I would say this one is slightly longer than the 960. This is definitely a comfortable fit in my hand. One of the things I'm going to point out here is right down at the bottom, I hold my pens at the bottom of the section, and there's a lip there, and after I've written about half a page, I do find that that lip does start to dig into my fingers. Will it post? Yes, it will, and it's nice and secure, but it's posting onto this piston mechanism here. I'm always worried that if I twist the cap as I'm trying to take it off, that I'll end up ejecting ink. So I normally don't post this. Let's do our writing. So we've got here a Narwhal Schuylkill. This has got a medium nib, and it cost me 69 Australian dollars. The ink is by Diamine, and it's called Eau De Nil, or Eau De Nil. I like this ink. It's a slightly different colour than normal. So it's not blue, it's not teal, it's just that slightly unusual colour into it. I'll move the mic so you can hear the pen writing. So I'm hoping you heard that. This is quite a noisy pen to write with. Didn't come like that. I've actually added in that little bit of noise. I was finding with this pen that certainly on Rhodia and Clairefontaine paper, I was having a lot of issues with it because it seemed to be skipping a lot. Why I think that was not so much baby's bottom, but I think it was just the way that the nib works on them papers. What I did was I took not the finest micro mesh, but one step down from that, and I just gently rubbed the nib on there, doing some figures of some 8s, some down lines and some cross lines, which then did add a little bit more roughness to the nib. I've got to be honest, I think it was a brilliant thing to do because I find this is so nice. You can see the ink coming out of here. It's tending more towards being a broad nib than a medium. I love the way it feels. I love the way the ink flows. I've had this pen, I want to say, well over a year now, and it's always been inked up, and I've had a number of different inks in it. It's so nice to use. Let's go and look at the Tomoe River paper. Well, yet another pen I love. I mean, this is going to be one of the issues I've got. I love all these pens. The size, as I've said, it's perfect. It just fits right when it's unposted. Called out here as well about that smallish ink window. Loads of shading. I do see plenty of shading when I'm using this pen, and it's really nice. As I said, yes, there's noise when I'm writing. It's smooth though. It's not rough. It doesn't feel like it's dragging. It's certainly not as smooth as the Delike, but I would actually say it's smoother than the Hong Dian. When I did this test page here in the Tomoe River paper, I'm saying that the medium's a bit fine for me. That was before I did that work on that micro mesh. As you can see when we looked at the optic paper, it's now broader, and I do think it looks a lot nicer. Wetness, it's a fairly wet pen. A little bit of line variation, not too much, but the flow keeps up ever so well. Back on this optic paper, well, we can see here we've got this gorgeous shading coming through with this ink. And as I said, I really do like this ink. I think it's unusual. But anyway, this is the Narwhal Schuylkill. Just going to reposition the paper one more time, then hopefully we can get the last two pens on the bottom. There we go. Pen number 4. We're jumping into the $100 to $200 range here. And that was won by the Laban 325. This is in this gorgeous brown colour. Let me just turn this around for you so you can see it. I like this because the cap and the end finial, they're both a solid brown colour. So the only variation you get in there is in this bit in the body. But just look at that. You know, got that gorgeous chatoyancy there. Then we're going around into, again with that chatoyancy, but it's a lot thinner. We've got different colours here. We've got like a more of a, I'm going to call it a goldy colour. It's not quite gold, but definitely a lot oranger than the rest of it. Really unusual colours in this. Let's take the cap off. So we go half, 1, 1.5. So again, nice, not too many turns. Just unscrew this again so I can show you. We've got a cartridge converter. This is a Laban branded one. And again, it's all metal fittings. Let's take a look at the nib. There we go. Another number 6 size nib. I like the colour of this. It's gold. It goes so well with the rest of the body. It's a steel nib. It's not a gold nib. In fact, all the pens today, none of them are gold nibbed. They're all steel. Let's see how the pen writes. So we have here a Laban 325. This has got a broad nib and it costs $146 when I bought it. The ink is by Herbin and it's Terre de Fouet. I just cannot for the life of me pronounce this last word. I've got fouet, few, fur, loads of different ways of pronouncing it. I'm guessing every single one is wrong, but it stands for Land of Fire. Now, I didn't show this before I started doing my writing. There's the pen unposted. I'm quite happy and comfortable using this unposted. It does post, but it's another one. To me, when it's posted, it feels very back heavy and unwieldy. Just going to move the mic so you can hear it right. So there we are writing. Look at all the shading on this. I think it looks so nice. This is such a nice ink in this pen. It's not quite a brown. There's a lot of red in there. And I think this is where the idea of Land of Fire comes through. You know, you've got the brown of the earth, but then you've got the redness. Absolutely lovely looking ink. It's nice and smooth to write with. Again, I haven't needed to do anything with this. It just writes like this straight from the box. Let's look over on the Tomoe River paper. You know, I'm calling on here. I love the ink colour. It really does. It works well in a lot of pens. I've had this in some fine pens. I've got it in this broad pen. No matter what pen I have it in, this ink looks so nice. Very smooth to write with. Again, I hope it came over when I had the mic close to the paper. There's the tiniest bit of feedback. It's not glassy smooth. Again, it's got that tactile feel that I really enjoy. All in all, it's really nice to write with. Plenty of shading, you know, we've already seen that on the optic paper. I've called out here, you know, it feels nice in the hand unposted and clumsy when it's posted. I love this combo. I think I may keep this ink in this pen rather than change into a different ink when it runs out. I think here I've found a perfect match. Wetness, nice and wet. Need to bear that in mind if using it for a long note-taking session. Line variation, just look at the line variation that I've been able to get. And that's without putting too much pressure on here. So certainly again, that line variation, bit like the shading, it lets you add in a little bit of character to your writing. Scribble at the bottom, no problems with the flow keeping up. Just gotta quickly turn this round slowly for you. I know, quickly and slowly. I do think this looks nice. This is the bit I like here. This chatoint area here. I think it looks so different. But anyway, this is the Laban 325. Slightly move the paper up. The final pen. This is in the $200 plus range. And it goes to the Diplomat Aero. I love the look of this pen. It's unusual. I don't have any other pens this shape. I love this factory colour. It's just really plain aluminium. I think what they may have done is put a lacquer over it, because I haven't seen any scratches, even though I do bang this around quite a bit. I like this little accent here we've got on the clip. Now, one of the things I have noticed, the clip doesn't actually go down to the body. Doesn't bother me because I never actually wear this in a shirt, but I don't know if this is normal for this model because it's the only one I've got. The cap pulls off, so I'm just going to gently pull it off. Again, cartridge converter there. Metal on metal. One of the things I do try to be aware of, you can see here I've got some build up. So when I clean this pen out, I try and get in there with, I actually use a toothbrush just to get any excess off. The nib. Again, it's a number 6 nib. It's a Diplomat one. I like this nib. It's yet another, not really had to do anything with it. I did do a little tiny bit of micro mesh on it, but not enough to really say that you've had to do anything. It was like 3 or 4 passes, more so for the Rhodia paper and the Clairefontaine paper, just to take off some little issues that I'd been seeing. Let's look at it in my hand first, shall we? There we go. So unposted, just about the right size. It will post. Actually doesn't feel too bad posted, so I'll leave it posted now. And let's do some writing. So we've got here a Diplomat Aero with a broad nib. This was 263 Australian dollars when I bought it. The ink by Diamine, and it's marine. So this to me, it's a bright blue ink, but with hints of green to it. Really like this. I'll move the mic so you can hear the pen write. So of the pens we've used today, this is by far the smoothest. This is the one that's getting close to being glass-like. It's getting close to that border where I really just don't like it because it's too glassy. I may do like I did with that Schuylkill. I might at some time go and put a little bit of roughness in it. At the moment, it's not unbearably bad, but it's getting very close to that. Look at the Tomoe River paper. So here we can see, I'm saying I love the way it writes. It's comfortable in the hand. The nib, it's gliding over the paper with that tiny, hardly noticeable feedback. It is nice to use. It's just my personal preference getting towards that too glassy side. I like this Diamine Marine. It's different than a lot of inks that I have. It's very similar to Eau De Nil, where you can say it's unusual. With previous inks I've had in this pen, I did get some very infrequent skips. By that I might mean 1 or 2 per page. Enough that I know about it, especially on Rhodia and Clairefontaine. And again, that's why I think maybe I just need to do a tiny little bit more tweaking to the nib. Again, it's a nice wet combo. We get a little bit of line variation, nowhere near as much as I was seeing with the Laban 325. I don't see much in the way of shading with this. That to me is one of the things which does let this combo down. And then the scribble at the bottom, no issues with keeping up with the flow. So back here on the optic paper, again, I'm saying there's very little in the way of shading. There is some, but not as much as I would like to see. But again, you just got to be aware of that, and you've got to experiment with different papers to find what works. But this is the Diplomat Aero. I'm just going to rearrange the camera, we'll then fetch each pen back and we'll announce the winner. So we've taken a closer look at each of the 5 pens. Let's have one final look. The first one, the Delike New Moon 2. Nice, inexpensive pen, does what it says, it writes, it's enjoyable to use. The Dian 960, the step up in price, nice, again plain looking pen, but writes nice. We've got the Narwhal Schuylkill, really pretty looking pen, really nice to look at. Needed a little bit of work to get it to write how I would like, but we got there in the end. The Laban 325. I think this is so pretty, especially this here with the body. I think that looks so nice. Hopefully I'm catching this on the camera now. And then the final pen. Here we go, the Diplomat Aero. The most expensive pen of the lot. Unusual shape. Love the colour of this. So which one is the winner? Which one is going to take home the trophy? I had to think hard about this one. And my end decision, well, it may be controversial to some people. The winning pen, the one that wins the trophy for this coming year, it's the Delike New Moon 2. Inexpensive pen, writes really nicely. $18, can't go wrong with that. And to me, it's the best bang for the buck of the lot of them. What do you think to my winning pen? Which one would you have chosen? Are there any other pens that you would have liked to have seen included in this list? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Just helps to surface my content for other people. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.